Hi, I'm Dr. Louise Marler, and this is my live on Thursday analysis. And today we're looking at Kamala Harris. Now, as you know, I'm interested in body language and vocal psychology and the way that we engage. So, Kamala Harris, what have we got? Well, Susan B. Anthony, who was born in the 1800s and was very active in the suffragette movement, actually said, "There's been no advanced step taken by women that has been so bitterly contested as that of speaking in public. They've been abused, condemned, and antagonized, and nothing has changed. When it comes to being a woman in the public eye, out there presenting, you have to be good." And Kamala is. She really is very good. So I would like to analyze with you the things that she does and then some of my opinions. So let's have a look. Her style, first of all. Now, I'm doing my very best Kamala impersonation today. So she almost invariably wears a round neck like this under a tailored jacket. Then she has very simple jewelry, sometimes nothing on, and just simple jewelry. Her hair is always off her face and straight down and clean, and then we get this changes at the bottom, but otherwise it doesn't change, and that is her style. She usually wears straight leg pants, and and that's her style. It's simple and invariable. Her posture, she has her posture aligned beautifully. Her head is on her body. She uses her lower body to walk. When she walks, you get that straight back. We don't get what we so often see, which is people walking with their upper body going first. No, she is upright. Her posture is magnificent. And that leads us to breath. Very rarely do we see her never do we bring her breath into her upper body and see that kind of those shoulders raised in a stress position. You don't see it. At the very beginning of her award speech, she actually went like that once, a sort of a relief breath. Otherwise, you'll notice that this does not move with her. Exactly the same as Obama. He had the same thing. Immovable. Her breath is in her lower body. I could not, say more about that in a positive way. It really is superb. And then her breath, her arms. Now, when she walks, you might notice when she walks on stage, her arms are free swinging. So she doesn't walk with her arms together on her body like so many people do when we get stressed. And then when it comes to gestures, we tend to attach our arms. No. For gestures, you'll notice that when she's speaking, even when she's not using her arms, her elbows are going out and keeping her body free. This is exactly what Obama did as well. And it is a practice to show that the diaphragm is unjammed, keeps the body free. It's a very good thing to do. Now, Diana, if anybody's watched The Crown, you'll see that Diana was actually given some public speaking coaching, and she was tied with a rope to keep her arms down. This is cruelty to dumb animals. If anyone ever tells you to do that, run for your life. It's not about we gesture or we don't gesture. It's about actually doing it correctly. And Kamala does. She keeps her gestures down at waist level most of the time, and they are congruent with what she's saying. Of course, when she walks straight on, she does the big hi with her hand, and sometimes she takes both hands up. She'll do that as well. But then when she's speaking, they're down here at waist level, they're congruent, and she uses her arms. This is critical for many reasons. It's critical because it actually guides the eye of the people who you're speaking to, but it also keeps your body free. And this is so important. So, these are things that she does magnificently. She does what I did just then. She goes on to one leg sometimes, and that is when she goes casual. Obama, when you watched him, he never went on to one leg for his whole first term. I never saw him go on to one leg. And then when he walked out on stage when he won for the second time, he stood out on stage. He stood there. People were applauding, and then he just dropped one leg and the audience went crazy. Why? Because this dropping of one leg says, look, I don't even have to try anymore. I can relax. And so it can be a relaxed sign. It can also be if you're speaking to people and suddenly it's very important and you go on one leg. This can be very negative because it says, I don't care. I'm not really listening to you. Her mouth is interesting because her mouth is almost always open. She has two moves for her mouth. Open, she does the Hillary Clinton smile. Hi. Two fingers, you try it, two fingers. That's quite a long way open. The other eyes, it stays open, the teeth are often separate. And when she brings it together, she even keeps her teeth quite separate and goes like that. So the teeth what you never see her do is what we see so often with Australian politicians, which I hate, which is this. Why is there a blue bit on my head? The lighting is weird here. So we see that. No, she never, ever, ever does that. She smiles. And her listening position is her mouth is open and she keeps a neutrality. Now, I can't tell you how many people I've argued with about this who will tell me that your listening position has to be serious. No, it doesn't. There are stages from anger to neutrality, and she keeps a neutrality. You don't have to be doing the American smile, but we have to get away from anger. Anger is just not a listening position, and she doesn't do it, as does not Jacinda Ardern. She does not do an angry face either. Kamala's eye contact is 100% under control. She is very aware, looking at her audience. You never, ever catch her out with the downwards look and upwards thinking. Her eyes are 100% under control with her audience, with the camera. I was talking to someone the other day who'd done a training, and I said, what was the number one thing you took away? And they said, look at the camera. Hello. Yeah, rule number one, look at the camera. And you'd be surprised how difficult we're finding that. No, expressing emotion, because this is interesting. They talk about her, I cut and paste things out of newspapers, and I don't remember which newspaper it came out of, but basically, I think it was the Wall Street Journal. They said, displayed a complex array of emotions. She told the story of a child abused as part of a second class to integrate in her public school. She showed the viewing public anger, passion, and pain, and she did. And this is interesting in itself because we learn from women in the public eye that it's very difficult to express emotion. And another quote was, in 2020, women running for president have learnt from Clinton's overabundance of caution. They're testing the fences on the allowable quota of authentic personal expression. And when the situation allows, granting themselves the luxury of, I love this phrase, emoting while female. Yeah, and she's doing it. So her voice, nothing comes under scrutiny more than a woman's voice in the public eye. It is a huge area of annoyance, and we saw that with Hillary Clinton. We clearly have a bias for voices that are lower in pitch and louder. They likened Hillary's voice to an ice pick to the ear. Shrill was a word that we heard a tremendous amount. And people would say, imagine listening to that for 4 years. This is awful. And in one article, the science behind hating Hillary's voice, they said she yells into the microphone. Yes, she does. She over-enunciated. Yep. But the major factor at play with hating Hillary's voice was sexism. Not my opinion, quoting. but it is my opinion. Harris's voice, what have we got? Apart from the sexism, well, she has what is very common in America, vocal fry. She has no vocal fry. She doesn't do that. She doesn't do uptalk. So at the end of a sentence, she doesn't go up. At the end of each sentence, going up. She doesn't yell. She doesn't yell. She doesn't do that. In fact, her vocal production is totally healthy. You know, people talk about when you have to speak for hours and hours or a whole day, you will lose your voice. No, you won't. Actually, the voice is enormously strong. You could hit it with a hammer, those vocal folds, and you wouldn't hurt them. You have to be doing something to them that is incorrect to get tired. And her vocal production is excellent. Unlike Hillary, who kept losing her voice, Kamala will keep speaking and speaking and speaking, and that voice will come out. Her pitch is hers, so sometimes many of us speak on a pitch that is not our pitch. It's too high or too low. She speaks at her pitch, which is excellent, and she has a lot of American twang. So we get that, yeah, it's a fundamental frequency, a frequency that cuts through. It's very American, it's production. The way that you get twang is to actually move your vocal folds close to is to close the space that the air comes through from the lungs and then it opens into a big space. All of us can do it because we're all born little children going, Mom, Mom, and you get that carrying sound. Americans do that a lot, and she does that a lot. She's got that very strong twang. She gives air out, so she doesn't hold her air. So she says, we will make your voice heard, heard, heard. She gives out a lot of air. So she's not afraid to do that. The thing that gets me with her vocal production are her what's called glottal attacks. So a glottal attack, when you speak, you can either do simultaneous onset. So you can say, ushered, ushered. The air and the vocal folds start together, ushered. Or you can do aspirate onset. So you can go, ushered, ushered, you ushered in. Irish do that a lot. Or you can do glottal attack. And this is what Kamala Harris does. She goes, you ushered in, it's a bang of the vocal folds. You ushered in. And then she talks about our nation owes you. And now it could be relevant for those statements because they're very strong statements. It's quite harsh, and it's not something Michelle Obama does. Michelle Obama does no glottal attacks at all. She speaks like this, so you never get that in there. And Kamala Harris, that is her vocal mannerism that I'm not crazy about. Basically, when it comes to Kamala and analysis of Kamala, she comes from the school of Jacinda Ardern. Is this the school of the new skills of leadership? Is this school that is female-led? Those skills are worth watching. Her smile, hello, yes, smiles are in. Can we learn from that? Gesturing, yes, gesturing is in. The angry face is gone. And the expressions of emotion, you can actually talk about emotion. That doesn't involve anger all the time. So why is she good? It's interesting because it's interesting that she comes from an ethnic background and Obama came from an ethnic background. And there's something in me that says this is a product of diversity, is that they're bringing skills. In my PhD, I studied about ancient cultures, and certainly the Hawaiian culture is very aware of the aloha, of the giving of air, of the way that we communicate, the way we use our body and our airflow. And Obama seemed to get it. You know, how do you get these skills? Well, you can get trained, but very few people know what they're doing. You can get trained, or you bring it from your culture. And Kamala is so kind of crispy clean. What has she brought from a different culture that has made her so superb at what she does? I think there's something to watch there. Now, when it came to the debate with Pence, a couple of things that she did that she gives away when listening is her eyes go tight when she's listening. So she goes tight with the eyes. She raises her eyebrows and the eyes go tight. And sometimes she raises one eyebrow, which I can't do, which shows contempt. But this is not an angry face. And her telltale signs of getting caught are that she half nods, half shakes. So she goes like that. These are things that I've noticed. And her nose flares. And her voice can go crackly. It can go crackly sometimes when she gets caught out. I don't know about that. The nose flares, half nod, half shake, and the crackly voice. We have to be very aware of how we analyze people. And an interesting thing is how different people are depicting her in the media. If you look at the New York Times, they often depict her taking a photo from underneath. They have her vulnerable with her neck showing. They have her hand on her heart and she's looking to the skies. And it's a picture of hope and leadership, looking for God, looking for the future. Whereas Fox News usually makes her in a very small picture, has her straight on, often has her in a face of surprise with lines around her forehead, whites of her eyes showing, and mouth open. So they will capture pictures that are unflattering in the different media to try to build a picture of her in your eyes and what you think of her. She is superb. But there's something else, on the Voice and the different program, they talk about the X factor. The X factor. There's something inherent in our virtual world which makes it not so listenable as face-to-face. There is something palpable that is missing. And there's something palpable in leadership that gives people the X factor. For me, Kamala is magnificent, but she doesn't have the X factor. It could be my bias. It could be the Glottal Attacks. I don't know what it is, but I do know that she's not my favorite. Having said that, when it comes to Kamala Harris, believe me, you have to be good as a woman. You have to be good, and she is. I've got no idea where that screen went to. Oh, there we go. Back. Thank you for listening. Oh.